Okay guys, today we're in Windows, and let me just clear up this desktop a little bit. We're going to build HISE on this operating system. Now let's go to the HISE GitHub page, always a good place to start. So you can find this, it's just github.com/christophart/HISE. We can download the source code. I'm actually going to download one of the releases, just the latest release. We'll download the zip. So here we go. So how to compile. So we're just going to follow these instructions basically. So you want to click these links to download those SDKs. I've already downloaded these 3 files. So the last thing we need is Visual Studio. And if we go, we need Visual Studio 2017. I did a video a couple of years ago building this in Visual Studio 2015, but now we need 2017. So if we just type that in, Visual Studio 2017, it's going to take you, one of the first results you'll find is this one. This is the official Microsoft download, and it's got Visual Studio 2019. It doesn't allow you to download 2017, but down here it's got older versions, so you'll be tempted to click that, and you can see 2017 there, and you can click download, but it doesn't actually take you to the download. You've got to join this free Dev Essentials program. So you can look into that if you want, but I wouldn't do it that way. What I would do is go to this link on the HISE forum. So if you just search on the HISE forum for Visual Studio 2019 plus IPP, I'll also post a link below this video so you can get there quickly. And Orange has kindly posted this link, which takes us to a download for Visual Studio. So I'm going to click to download the web installer for the Community Edition. And here we go. So I will save that, and that only takes a second to download because it's just it's the web installer isn't the full version of Visual Studio. It's an installer that will download Visual Studio, and it's going to take a while to install. So I'll start the install and then we'll skip on to the next bit. So that will be in my downloads folder. So let's start this web installer. So of course we agree to the terms and conditions. Okay, it's hit us with this page now, asking us what parts we want. So for now I'm just going to enable this desktop development with C++, and probably need to add some of these things in later on. It'll probably give us a warning to add some extra components, but for now we'll just stick with this one. So yeah, this is going to be 6.39 gigs, and I'm going to install while downloading. So while that's running, let's just minimize that. We can do some stuff with these other files we've got. So let's extract the HISE source code. I'm just going to put it on the desktop for now. Okay, well that's finally copied. Took ages. I suppose it was extracting at the same time. Let's delete that zip file now so we don't get confused by that. And if we go back to the documentation, let's see. Open the producer, there are compile things. Okay, so we're going to have to, it doesn't actually say, but we're going to have to put these SDKs in the right location. So in this HISE source code folder, there's all the HISE source code there on the left. We're going to go to Tools, SDK, and then in here we're going to put the ASIO SDK. Just going to drag that across. And we're also going to put the VST SDK. Now this is going to be for even though it says VST3, this is going to be for compiling VST2 plugins. But you can compile VST3 plugins now in HISE apparently. I haven't tested it yet, but supposedly the support is there. And the VST3 SDK is actually somehow baked into all the other code that comes with HISE. So if you're watching the clock in the bottom corner, you'll see that took ages to extract, which is surprising because it's not that big a file. It's only 70 megs, but whatever. And we're at over 54% with the Visual Studio installer, so that is good. The only thing left to do is install the Intel performance primitives, but I'll do that once Visual Studio has installed, because we'll set up the IPP to integrate with Visual Studio. So now we go back to our HISE instructions. So it says open the producer. So we go to the HISE source code, and let's close the downloads folder for now. We'll go to the HISE source code folder and we're in the tools folder inside there. We're going to go to producer, and I think it's this one we run. Nope, that's the wrong one. Go away. It's this one we want. The application one. Okay, and then the instructions are, so we've done that, load the HISE project. So we're going to load the HISE standalone project. So HISE can be run as a plugin or as a standalone application. For now we're just going to build the standalone application. So we're in the HISE source code directory, we're going to go to projects, and then you can see we have the choice between the plugin or the standalone. I'm going to select standalone. And in here we have a .juicer file, and this is what the producer program reads. So we go to modules, and we're just going to go through each of these first of all and check that everything's right. Now we've got this option here, use IPP. We haven't installed the IPP yet, but we're going to, so I'm going to leave that enabled. But if we weren't using IPP, then I'd set that to disabled. Okay, so that one all looks okay. Okay, so I've gone through all those modules, they all look okay. We're going to go down to the exporters section now. In fact, we can just click this pencil button there, and this will take us to the Visual Studio exporter. We're going to select release, and the reason there is two releases actually is one is 32-bit, that's this one here that says x86, and this one is 64-bit. This is the one we're going to use, a 64-bit one. And we can see here there's a path to the Azure SDK. So we're just going to make sure that's right, and because we put it in the correct location, it should be correct already. So SDK, but I'm just going to check the file name. So Azure SDK 2.3, and then there should be /common. Yep, there we go. So that's okay. So hopefully Visual Studio will be able to find that, and we won't get any problems related to that. So now I'm just going to go to File and hit Save. And now we're just going to wait for Visual Studio to finish installing. So I'm just going to close the GitHub page for now. We don't need that anymore. So we're just waiting on Visual Studio. We're at 99%, so only a moment to go hopefully. We only have to go through this setup process once of being able to compile HISE, and if you're going to use HISE I recommend you compile it yourself, because you can always be using the latest version, and if you're able to compile HISE yourself, it means you're also able to compile your projects into plugins which you can export from HISE. And most of this is a one-time setup, although you'll want to recompile HISE when new versions are released. Okay, so the installation is completed. I'm just going to click Launch. I don't want to do that, so I'll click Not Now, maybe later. Or maybe never. We'll go with the dark theme. Okay, now we're in Visual Studio. So let's just give this a moment to finish loading up all the things it's loading in the background. Is it done? We're on to the start page. Build your first app in 5 minutes. Let's close this start page. Okay, so Visual Studio's up and running. So let's close it and install the Intel performance primitives. So we'll close all of that and we'll go back to our downloads folder, and we can delete this SDK now because we've extracted it and that one. And I'll leave the web installer for the Visual Studio Community Edition for now, and we'll just run the IPP installer. Unfortunately, once I opened the IPP installer, the recording interface just went blank, so I'm afraid you missed a couple of bits just where I chose which components I was going to install. But basically I selected all of the 64-bit Intel components, so that's the single-threaded and multi-threaded option, and I also chose to use the automated integration with Visual Studio, which is what it's doing now, and I just installed it in the default location, so you haven't missed much. But yeah, sorry about that, the screen recording software just had some kind of conflict with the IPP installer. Okay, so this is apparently complete now, so I'm going to hit finish. Right, I won't delete those just yet, just in case we need them. Let's empty that recycle bin. So I'm going back into the HISE source code folder. We're going to go to Tools again, we're going to open the producer again. And I'm just going to go to File, Open in IDE. Select Visual Studio 2017. And this will open the HISE Visual Studio project. Now I suspect when we compile this we are going to get some errors and we're going to need to install some extra components in Visual Studio, but I could be wrong, we might have installed everything that it needs. We'll soon find out anyway. Okay, so apparently we're ready. If I click this little link here, no, not that one, where is it? Somewhere there's a Project Explorer. Oh, it's over this side. It's been a long time since I've used Visual Studio. So this is the HISE project for the standalone app. We don't really need to look in here for anything, but it's just good to know that this is where all the files are. And we can see the folder structure and stuff. If you're a C++ programmer, then this is probably quite interesting to you. And if you want to play around with the source code, it's all there. But what we're going to do is we're going to select from this list up here, we're going to select release because we want to build the release version. You can also build a debug version if you're testing things in HISE, but that's going to use more resources and stuff like that, but it'll give you more information if a crash does occur. And then we're going to select the 64-bit build here. Then I'm going to go to build, and I'm going to select build HISE standalone app. And then down here in the output we can see what it's doing, and it's already failed. So yeah, this is what I was expecting. So it says the Windows SDK version, that number was not found. So we need to install a different version of the Windows SDK. So we're going to go to Get Tools and Features. This is in the Tools menu. Get Tools and Features. And then this installer that we saw earlier, this is the web installer interface. So it's the same interface we saw earlier when we install Visual Studio. This is going to give us access to all the extra features, and we're just going to look for this Windows SDK version and install that. And it's probably going to be another couple of gigabytes, so we'll have another wait. So let's see what we have here. So there's the SDK versions here. So all I did to open that was I clicked this desktop development with C++, and I expanded that. So we want the one 10.0.16299. So 16299, so that's this one here. So we're just going to tick that, and it's calculating the space. There we go, 2.75 gigs. So I'm going to click modify, and then we're going to play the waiting game again, and I will see you when this is installed.
No, the waiting game sucks. Let's play Hungry Hungry Hippos.
Okay, and we're back, so that's done now. It's saying, do I want to launch it? We're going to launch it from the producer again. So I'm just going to go open in IDE. And hopefully this time it'll compile without any issues. And because we've already loaded it in once, it's loading in much more quickly this time. There we go, it says it's ready already. And it's got release selected and x64, so we're going to go to build HISE standalone. And in the console here we can see the progress. I'll make that a bit bigger. So hopefully this will just run through now without any issues. It'll take a few minutes. So some warnings have appeared here. Don't worry about warnings. Warnings are fine. It's only if it says error or failure or something more extreme like that we've got to worry. Okay, well that's worked. It seemed to take a small eternity, but I'm guessing that's just because this computer's quite slow. So we can see here where it says it's put the output file, so it should be in Projects, Standalone, Builds, Visual Studio 2017, x64, Releases, App, HISE.exe. So let's close Visual Studio. Let's close Producer. Let's open up our HISE source code folder. We'll go to Projects, Standalone, Builds, Visual Studio 2017, x64, Release, App, and there it is. Let's see if it works. And we have success. We've built HISE. So, do I want to create a new project? I don't for now, so I'm just going to cancel that. So, that's it guys. That's how we build HISE on Windows. Now, for me, that's taken well over an hour. For you, it's probably taken, I don't know, I'm guessing I can edit this down to about 10 minutes. But if you try it on your system, obviously the time will vary depending on your the specifications of your system, how fast it is. So I hope you found this helpful. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'll post relevant links in the video description on YouTube, and if you're watching this on Patreon, I'll put some links in there as well. So that's all for this video, and I will see you next time.